Domination University.
Welcome back to Domination University. This is Francesca, and I'm here with a very special guest, Kat Davies from Magickal Mavens. Welcome, Kat.
Hello.
Well, I appreciate you taking some time for us, and you're calling in all the way in Denver, Colorado?
Yes, all the way in the cold.
Oh, snap. Well, it's pouring rain here in LA, so you know we're struggling. The struggle is real. So would you tell us about it? Because Magickal Mavens, I joined that group a few years ago, and randomly one of my friends invited me to Krista Stats. I don't know if you know her, and you have so much going on. I'm so excited for you, and it really seems like you have, loaned your soul in a lot of ways to this group. Can you tell us what it's about and who it's for, and just some more about how it came about in your life? Because I think it's awesome.
Yeah. It's still in its growing stages. But so Magickal Mavens started off as a kind of spiritual outlet, creative outlet for me. I had left a coven, and I just needed a community that I could learn and grow with. And the blog kind of started that, and I realized that I wanted to showcase all of the amazing people that I was connecting with, and then the Facebook group kind of came together because I wanted a place for us to actively hang out. And it's just kind of blown up from there. It's oh gosh, it's just amazing. I love everybody in it. It's an all-inclusive space. So men, women, non-binary, LGBTQ, whoever you are, I want you with us, basically. You do have to be 18 and up, and that rule is only really in place because spiritual practice is so, what's the word I'm looking for? It's such a contentious, I don't know, people can get really aggressive about it, and I didn't want to put a child, a minor, in a situation where they have found this community online and then their parents found out, and that caused, trauma in their life somehow because they're punished for pursuing it. So if I could find a way to build something for, younger kiddos, that would probably be on my list. But for right now, I'm still trying to figure out what the next step is. So trying to not cast my net too wide. Gosh, what else do we have going on? I do a monthly tarot forecast, and I think I did a yearly one, last month, this month. Wow, it's still January.
It's been a slow January.
It feels like it should be March.
Right.
And it's such a beautiful social space. I mean, so many people come together and they just share weird insights from their practice or card draws that they have, or I don't know. I feel like a nice, safe little space, and I'm really excited to see how it's grown. Because a year ago, I don't even know how I functioned a year ago, honestly, trying to put it all together. But yeah, we're just growing, events, promotion. It's a whole thing.
Awesome. It's exciting. And I mean, there's also a range. I'll point that out just in case, people are interested in finding it, and maybe they're intimidating, but there's a whole lot of wisdom, and you read about some pretty impressive experiences people are having, and then you see younger witches too, people who are just kind of spreading back the veil and going into the unknown and into other worlds, and it has a lot of love. It has a definite sense of community.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we do have a really big, I call them baby witches. I don't know if they'll like that term, but I still consider myself like a baby witch because there's so much that I still don't know, and that I'm still, like, there are, people in the group that have been practicing as long as I've been alive, and so they are definitely the person I go to, sort out this crazy experience I have, or, whatever insight I need. And so to see that scale from brand new people, just trying to get a handle on where they're being led, to people that, lead workshops professionally, and they were high priestesses. And I love that I have actually built a space where all of that can come together and it not feel judgmental in any way. That was a really big thing. I don't know what word I want to use, but it was a really big deal for me to pull together that kind of diversity in path, practice, time span, and everybody just feel like family. And I love that it does feel that way.
For sure, yeah. Judgment is tough. Judgment seems to follow humans most places. So you're doing a great job of holding space.
Thank you.
I'll give you that. You're welcome. Do you want to talk about your personal practice, the stuff that you've been into, how long you've been into it? Growing up, I think you had different experiences, but give us an idea of what it's like to, be a person who kind of always knows that there's more than meets the eye, but not necessarily having, a clear path to follow that feels safe.
Yeah. So I grew up in a house that was, so my parents, being from Louisiana, were raised Southern Baptist, but when we moved to Colorado, we didn't really go to church. I had a lot of friends that went to church because that was like the cool thing to do, to go hang out in youth group. And I would go with them every now and then, and I just felt so out of place. Like there wasn't a connection there for me. And, I grew up in a home that had a lot of paranormal activity, and I was an avid reader, so of course I fell into the Harry Potter trap, where I was insistent that I was going to be Hermione at some point in my life.
Yes, yes.
She is my idol. I love her. And, it wasn't spoken. I don't know how to explain it. Because of where my parents grew up, we acknowledged paranormal activity, but we didn't pursue it. So you didn't invite it into your home. It was just something that happened to us, and it happened a lot. But it was what it was, and we left it alone. And then I just kind of took that as something that, happened in life, and if you didn't experience it, you were missing out in some kind of way. And it wasn't until I graduated college about 3 years ago, something like that, 2 years ago. And I was sitting on my couch, and I was just like, I can't just go to work every day and do nothing with my time, with my energy. And I had never had a religious practice, a spiritual practice at that point. So I kind of just dove into taking care of myself physically. I got really into fitness. And I feel like that's kind of what triggered it for me. I've always felt very disconnected from my body, and I'm not very good at acknowledging my emotions when I have them. So working out kind of forced me to face some disappointment I had in myself, or meeting my goals for once and feeling achievement and a sudden connection to my body and feeling aligned. And it just kind of spiraled downhill from there.
Oh, wow.
I was talking to my middle sister, and she mentioned just in passing that she identified as pagan. And I remember looking at her like, do you even know what that means? Like, what is happening right now? And the more she started talking about it, I realized, like, you can feel when your spirit shifts into something that you need to pursue. Like, it felt like my whole body just, like, lurched towards her and was like, tell me more. So I kind of let her go home and didn't say anything about it. And I think I spent the next, like, week and a half, 2 weeks, buying almost every single book I could find in the thrift store, reading everything I could online, just trying to, like, explain to myself what the heck was happening. And it just kind of exploded from there. It's kind of taken over my house, and I allowed myself to dabble a lot. I never really stuck to, I think tarot and astrology are the only two things that I have really, really stuck to in trying to learn and be really proficient at. I'm still learning. But I kind of identified, I know we all hate being put into boxes, but they just make things make a little bit more sense as, chaos magic. I didn't write things down. I just kind of let myself, for once, listen to my intuition and trust it, and things just kind of started happening. So then I fell in with this coven, and then I left, and it kind of just triggered and built up to this beautiful thing that I have now. And my practice has shifted quite a bit in the last few months. I've always been really interested in mythology and, wanting to be like Hermione, reading all the time. I identified really heavily with Athena just in high school. Like, I just loved that she was clever and smart and powerful and needed no man. Like, she was just so much strength in a woman.
Yeah,
and,
girl.
Like, I needed that. And so I've begun working with her, which is really weird because I'm not really one to pray. I never thought that I would be devoted to any sort of deity. I was just kind of like, the universe is speaking to me, which sounds ridiculous, but it made sense. So now it's kind of
all the time, yeah.
Yeah, like, it's spirit, it's the universe, it's some thing. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't have a name. And for that to kind of focus into a tunnel vision, ever since I've been picking up on messages from her and kind of devoting significant parts of my life to her, I feel so much better. I feel like even when I don't want to practice, or if I've kind of strayed from sacred work, if I can at least do it in service to her, it makes up for it in a weird way. Like, I'm not doing it for me, I'm doing it for you, but in a roundabout way, I'm still doing it for me.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a really weird shift, and I feel like that's something a lot of people in spiritual practice can kind of struggle with. Like, they get on this path and they just feel like they have to keep doing it this way, and they kind of lose sight that you can be led in new directions. So I love that I've managed to maintain some level of adaptability in my practice.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's huge. I was actually going to ask because, you have a good amount of experience. You were in a coven, you grew up in Southern Baptist, and now you've found your groove. What would you like to tell people about just the power of routine or ritual? Because, religions and other, like, kind of constrained paths, I mean, they honestly scare me. When I think about, like,
They're really
dogma and, like, prescribe to this, and this is the bullshit that comes out of some, religions where you have to remove your own ability to hear source or to, connect with.
What to hear.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest reason I struggled so much with going to youth group. And like when we moved, my parents stopped going to church. They believed that, religion or spirituality was whatever you believed and devoted yourself to. But because they had no knowledge at the time of occult spiritual practice, it was, you are Christian, you are one of the major, defined religions, and that is what keeps you from the devil. And I never believed in the devil. I hated the idea that you had to be afraid of something for the rest of your life. Like, you couldn't make mistakes. My anxiety level was too insane for me to even think about what's going to happen to me when I die. Because, oh shit, I didn't do X, Y, Z. Like, I can't handle that. So I feel like for ritual, it's just really important to understand for yourself why you feel pulled to do what you do. So my rituals aren't really intense. I don't practice ceremonial magic, or high magic, whatever you want to call it. I feel like for me that's too energetically draining. So understanding the correspondences of herbs, tools, whatever is, even if you use an altar, why does this action feel sacred to you? And I feel like that's something a lot of people forget because we're so used to being told what is sacred, or like, you do this thing because God tells you to, or because we tell you that God wants you to do this. And it shouldn't be that way. It should be a relationship between you and whatever this sacred being, deity, whatever you want to call it, is. So how do you honor them, and how do you honor yourself? It's really, really important, and it doesn't have to be a big thing. I think, like prayer, I really equate a lot of like spiritual witchcraft practices to prayer. I mean, if you've seen Catholic altars, they got white candles everywhere, and they be whipping that incense everywhere. Like, that is, like, it's beautiful if you believe in that. And if you believe that that is how spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, speaks to you, pursue that. It didn't work for me, so I do it in my home with like one candle, and I meditate for 15 minutes. But that's what I need. Or, a small ritual of mine is planning, which is the strangest thing. I never thought that that's how my practice would develop, is I pour all of my intention into my bullet journal, which when I work in it, that feels like sacred work to me. That feels like a connection to spirit, a connection to me, and, it just kind of crescendos into a natural part of my practice. And I feel like everybody needs to find that thing that feels like that.
Yeah, right on. Well said. And I think, well, you know what, like, to your point, I think that's one of the problems that I have with a lot of religions, is that it takes away the individuality, because everyone's different. Not everyone is going to feel the light, in a church versus in a forest. And to take away, that sacred relationship that only you can have with Source is just, it's a crime to me. And to think that you are the only one. Isn't it funny how religion's like, this is the only way it is, could believe. It's just, and you know what, I think but so much self-awareness and self-development is gained if you find it in yourself and you find your own truth, and just be able to connect. Even like archetypes exist, whatever creative energy that you're channeling in your bullet journal. I mean, that's real stuff. You can't argue with it just because
you don't lose it. It's become a part of you in a way. Like, my bullet journals have, meditative notes in them, or messages from spirit in them, and tarot draws, and like there are these little like pocket grimoires that I just carry with me, and that becomes, I guess, in a weird way, like a Bible. I mean, it's where I develop my spiritual knowing, and everybody needs to find that for themselves and not be told what that is. Because being told what to do and what to believe has always irked me, and to watch other people go through that, my eye twitches.
Yeah, you got to download your own truth. That's just how it is.
I think my biggest mantra is, if you are happy and healthy and like not harming yourself or others, like that's all you need. Why does it have to be more than that? And why does you being happy and healthy need to be judged if you're not doing it the way that someone tells you to do it? If that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm just for some reason there's long history of us humans and needing to like control others. I don't know. Yeah.
A lot of control issues, and I think that's why I hate it, because I always feel out of control because of my anxiety. So when someone places their need for control on me, I cringe, because I'm like, I need to get control of myself first before I allow you to like do this for me. Like, get out of here. Like, go deal with your own problems.
Well, yeah, that's just psychology and why it hasn't transferred into more. Yeah, I mean that's just human nature. You gotta have that sense of freedom. I mean, or at least have the support to deal with your own demons, to have the support to, to find your center and to be able to hear your own voice. I mean, that's huge. And fortunately, we live in a time now where it's getting a lot easier. I mean, you have a thriving pagan community in Denver. In LA, you can get your chakras balanced and your nails done at the same time. Next time, if you're in LA, we'll go to Namaste Nails, plug up to the Deepak Chopra Dreamweaver technology, sip some crystal-infused water, get the nails did. It'll be awesome.
That just cracks me up. I love that.
So LA. It's so great though. Like it's such a deep surrender to have someone doing your nails and you can't see them because you got like these Dreamweaver technology. There's a certain amount of trust there, because usually you're staring. Yeah, it's like, now don't you fuck this up. And you know what? They actually fucked it up last time. They did my nails oval. When I came in, they were square, and I left there oval. And I'm like, damn it. Should not have surrendered. No. That's one negative experience, but I'll tell you what, because this is so corny, but I can only talk about this with certain types of people. I turn the Dreamweaver technology, it's like red and blue and white lights like shooting out in these like eye goggles. I turn that shit up so high, it's like the biggest acid trip ever. Like it's insane and like higher and I'm sober at the time. And then I usually drink afterwards with my homegirl, but I turned that shit up so high, and I was doing this chakra meditation, and I actually attribute this probably to all the third eye chakra work I did, my clairvoyant class I just finished up. But holy shit, I was seeing the most dramatic, like, visuals ever. I mean, it was like so captivating. Yeah, it was some wild shit. And my friend, she had hers barely turn on, and then she took them off completely because it was bothering her. And me, like, because I've been doing all this third eye chakra work, freaking, and I'm just, oh yeah, I was having a ball. Yeah.
Oh
so,
my God.
If you're ever out here, we'll go to Namaste Nails. It'll be great.
We will have to do something crazy. I have friends that have such profound experiences like that, and I sit there and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And they'll like text me these like crazy stories and dreams they had, and I'm like, what are you smoking? Because you sound crazy. Like, I know you're not crazy, but you sound crazy right now. And
Yeah.
I actually love hearing those experiences. I think they're my favorite thing, where I'll just sit there all moony-eyed at you, like, just please tell me more. Like Michael from The Office, where he's like, please more? Yeah? That's easy. Like, tell me everything about you. I want to know.
Oh, man. I got some good ones.
I think I've only had, like, one or two crazy experiences where I was like, oh, okay. All right, what do I do with this information? And they usually trigger me into, like, a full-on, like, spiral. But then,
gosh.
You learn something from them. It's fine.
Well, it's just nice that we can live in a time where we can actually talk about it, and it's actually taken me, I'm not to, go down the rabbit hole with my own shit, but
No.
It's taken me a long time to be able to have the identity of a witch, even though I'm not a witch in a lot of ways that other people are witches. I kind of have my own kind of thing going on where I do a lot of like psychic work and stuff, and I mean that more so working on the subtle body rather than necessarily forecasting and stuff like that. I do a lot of energy work on those planes. But just the idea, and if for so long it's like, okay, there's really nothing that isn't not like a witch, like I can't get around it. And then that brought about a lot of fear, especially since I work in corporate America, and for such a long time it was, I almost felt like I could be persecuted kind of subliminally. And I thought about, oh, how could I put this on the internet? Like, I'm afraid like people are going to look down on me. And like, it just, I think that there's a certain thread that I think still connects us to the witches of the past that had to deal with so much persecution and so much fear of just their existence, or, whatever, all the shit that went on there. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like just that common thread that a lot of us have to face at one point, in our own development?
Yeah. So I, on the Magickal Mavens blog, I kind of dove into the history of witchcraft, and it was something that really triggered like a lot of fear in me, especially, my practice has made me far more outspoken in my community. Like, I work with a domestic violence nonprofit, and I work with small businesses on top of like my normal day-to-day job. And at some point, you start to know people, and Denver's only so big, and these threads kind of start to come together. And in certain spaces, you feel okay sharing, that you meditate, or that you like crystals, or you kind of like, you figure out who you feel safe, like dipping your toe in with. And those are the people that you should, you should pursue that. We need people that we can communicate our experience with. That's just a human thing. And like you, I work in a space that is very not. So I work for a university, and it's very academic, very research-based, and as a staff member, I don't participate in that kind of research, and I don't participate in, the great PhD level knowledge. But it's really interesting to see, the communities you build in your workplace. And I actually have a lot of fear around sharing, what I do with Magickal Mavens, just what I do outside of work. I don't really like to share that with people because of the type of people that I work with. Not that they're bad. I just know that it's not something I feel comfortable sharing. And a handful of people at work have found out what's going on with me. And the first time, they all get excited, which is the weirdest thing. Like my husband, he mentioned that I read tarot, and it caused an entire department to like freak out and beg for me to read their tarot cards. And very supportive of everything I do. And he kind of mentioned it offhand as like, oh, she's going to do this thing. And I remember I came downstairs because we work in the same building. I came downstairs and I was bombarded by this department. And they meant well, but because I did not have the power to share that with them, it felt really like, ooh, it felt like a lot. And I just kind of laughed it off and, yeah, we can do this, it's fine. But I never followed through with it because I wasn't there with them. I wasn't ready for that at all. And so it takes a lot of discernment to figure out where and who you feel safe with. And to see, women are still dealing with systemic trauma and pain and, being heard already in like our day-to-day lives. And then you add on something that has so much stigma and is just wildly misunderstood by like the mass population. It can make you feel cornered when it's brought up unexpectedly. And you have to be prepared for that moment. And, I think it's really important that everybody at some point, whether you're identifying as a witch or you're just exploring your spiritual practice, you have a real conversation with yourself about what is my reaction if so-and-so finds out? Does this mean I lose my job? Does this mean, that I feel unsafe? It's a very big question that I feel like really needs to be addressed. There's such a big active community online and in a lot of growing cities, for you to go and find your people. But work and our corporate, button-up 9-to-5 lives are rarely that. So that's such a big step to feel safe to tell people. I still don't tell people, even though I'm really, really vocal about it online. And I feel like someone has to be in order for other people to feel safe. So I kind of I don't know if I did it intentionally, but I just kind of started shouting that I was doing it. And then I realized after the fact, the aftermath of what could happen. Nothing has happened to me, but I'm very lucky. And then to layer on other systemic issues like racism, our BIPOC community, they're trying to reconnect with their ancestral indigenous practices. And it's such a messy space sometimes that it's really, really important to figure out what you're prepared for and what you're ready for, and to not rush into it. There's a lot of, I know I felt this, that I found this path and I just dove headlong into it and I didn't come up for air for a long time. And when I did, I was like, oh shit, I've created this thing, I've started doing this thing, and now people know about the thing. Oh God. Mm-hmm. And you have to slow down at some point. You have to breathe, and give yourself real time to learn and process. I feel like that's the biggest thing that I've taken to overcome, pain with the word witch, misunderstanding with the word, and being really, really patient with other people. Because once you identify as it and once you kind of claim it as part of your life, you're always going to be bombarded with people that don't understand. So you have to have a lot of agency and, claiming personal power to determine who is worth your time and your energy to overcome their misunderstanding, or if you potentially don't feel safe with that person, how can you remove yourself from that situation? Because the person that doesn't want to understand isn't going to understand. So Be safe. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of chaos in the world right now, and the last thing we need is, I just don't even want to think about it.
Yeah. And one thing I would add to that, though, I think that there's a certain amount of empathy. You know, I think a lot of witches are naturally empaths, and I think that kind of like connects us, you know, and kind of allows the veil to be more open than to a lot of other people. So just, you know, taking care of yourself in the workplace and recognizing that, you know, especially as we evolve and as we progress, you know, people find out you're a witch and then they try to like, you know, suck out some of your natural healing energy in a way that's not cool. So, you know, you might want to keep it on the low just for that reason.
Yeah, and boundaries. Boundaries are such a big deal. And I know that we say that just in general, like everybody should have good boundaries. But as a witch, you have to take that almost to a completely, you know, you have to take that to another level, a deep, energetic, spiritual level of like, this is my space, and your shit cannot be in this space. So get the fuck out. Like, you have to set really strict walls with where you feel safe. And it's still, you know, I still am doing trial and error. Like, my office is basically a fishbowl. So at one point, I had like a really like good, solid, like little hideaway office where nobody could find me. And now I'm on display basically all the time. People know where I am, even when I don't want to be found. So I've had to basically build, like, my little greenhouse is like a fortress of good vibing feelings to combat the stress and like overwhelm that I feel in that space. And I feel like it's helped a lot in that people that come to see me are immediately nicer because I have established a space where like only, I mean, it sounds silly, only good vibes, but I don't want your crap to like hang out with me all day. I want you to take it with you when you leave.
Right. I know, but you know, the witches are the ones doing the, you know, healing the offices.
I know. It's trial and error. You really have to like figure out what works for you and, you know, where your comfortability is. And not put pressure on yourself. I feel like I took on the word witch pretty quickly. I think it made so much sense for me because of my upbringing and the experiences I was having. But I'm also in a city that's pretty open-minded. So it was really easy for me to find community and know that even if I wasn't safe sharing it, not safe, but didn't feel comfortable sharing it at work, there was plenty of other places for me to do so. And I forget that there are so many places like rural Colorado that don't have that. So there's a lot more discernment that needs to happen for people in those spaces. It's just an interesting thing to consider as you develop your practice.
What are some of your best witch tips for professionals, you know, to help you get through?
Oh, gosh. For working professionals?
Yeah.
Let's see. Carry black tourmaline with you. It is, for me, it's like the most grounding thing in the world. I tried to carry clear quartz with me for a long time, and that just amplified. I hadn't programmed it correctly. Baby witch failure. But it just amplified my own feelings, amplified everybody else's feelings, and I was like drowning at one point. I remember sitting in my office basically having a panic attack because I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? And I had a friend from the group. She bought me some black tourmaline, and ever since then it just sucks the frantic overwhelm like right out of you. It grounds you so well, and everybody needs to carry some with them. I feel like everybody needs it. Plants are important. I feel like if you have a plant with you, you're going to be happy. Like, you can't be mad at a little happy green plant. It brings you joy. Let's see. I've actually started meditating at work, which I know probably isn't reasonable for a lot of people, but I work in a space that, because I work on a campus, we have to be inclusive of, you know, practices of students. You know, we have a high international Muslim community on campus, so we put in a meditation prayer room for them in our building.
Oh, nice.
I've just popped in there 15 minutes every morning, and I feel so much better. Meditation just in general is the best for your brain. I feel so much better when I have sat down and shut up for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's so many people just say I meditate. I'm like, no, you have to, like, intentionally meditate. There's a reason why you feel like a crazy person right now. Go take a break. Let yourself breathe.
If I can add to that too, so if you've never meditated and you don't quite understand it, imagine you have a computer and you've never deleted any of the files. You've never cleared your internet browsing history. Everything that you've ever dealt with is just accumulating, in the internal storage. And the computer has to process everything, when it moves from one process to the next. That's what not meditating is like. So meditating is like, deleting files, emptying the recycling bin, clearing your browsing history, and having like a more crisp, reconciliation of what you want to have in your space and what you don't, and what you're willing to carry with you and what you don't need anymore. Bam.
I love that. I love that explanation. It's so spot on. Like, it's just one of the smallest, simplest things that I feel like you can do. Like, I've done it on my commute to work. I take the light rail into campus, and I'm surrounded by strangers. Everybody's tired and grumpy, but I just find myself a little corner, close my eyes, and people will think I'm sleeping. But in reality, I am preparing for the coming war zone. That's what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
It's so important. Black tourmaline, how many others? I feel like those are my big ones. It's just setting space for yourself to be prepared for the day and a way to manage your energy, especially if you are an empath or an introvert. You take on, especially, like, I can't even imagine in sales how you function, like, dealing with that many people. And, like, I would freak out. Like, I like that I'm in accounting because then I hide. Like, people come and see me if they want to talk about money, which is great. But they don't want to, like, hang out and talk about money. They just want to see me for 5 minutes, make sure they have it, and then they go away. And that's perfect for me. But I can't imagine the amount of emotional output and input that you get and give every single day.
Yeah. It's a roller coaster.
I'm overwhelmed just thinking about it.
I used to sell insurance, and I would do group sales, and it's seriously like high lows. Like, it's the biggest, it was so intense. I'd come out of these deals, maybe I closed a whole bunch of big deals like in a short amount of time, and I'm like, yeah, like, I'm so excited. I feel like I don't even know, like, on some crazy drugs or like my whole body. Yeah, I'm like, my metabolism has changed. I'm like, almost got the chills. I'm like freaking out. Like, I'm so ungrounded. And I used to drive all over LA selling insurance, and it was huge. Or, knocking on doors, and everyone's like, fuck off. And they're like, oh, shit, gotta knock on more doors. Yeah, it was crazy. My new job is not nearly as stressful. I'm actually really lucky to have the job that I do now. Yeah.
I could not have done that.
Thank you.
At all. It takes a very special personality, I feel like, to sell. And I can sell for a handful of people because I'm so passionate about what they do, and I feel like the whole world needs to know. But I do that maybe like once in a blue moon, or like on the internet where I can just like click share and type 5 words, and I'm like, that's perfect. That's all I need. That's all I need to give. And I'm just so, I just am so overwhelmed by big crowds that and I always have been, that I just have to limit it. for myself. Like I basically had a mild panic attack at the first Comic-Con that my husband and I ever went to.
Oh, wow.
So like, and this is pre anything. Like I had no idea about, what I could carry with me to help ground. Wasn't meditating. Like I wasn't even in baby witch mode yet. And he left me for maybe 5 minutes to go get some money. Not a big deal. He's like, just stay right here. I'll be right back. And I turned around and I was lost in a sea of people, all talking, all touching each other, and I freaked the fuck out. So learning to ground is so important. Oh, it's like 101. That's the first thing that you have to learn to do when you want to be a witch.
Yeah, you got to be able to clear that energy because, unfortunately, if you're an empath or if you're just mildly sensitive, you're going to take it on, and until it starts clearing on its own, you're going to be boggled down.
Yeah.
So I definitely have a lot of tools. I don't know how I could function, and especially my life now because it's pretty intense. I have my protection roses. I have my grounding cords. Like, I do all kinds of stuff on the regular basis, and I do it like I'm snapping my fingers, and I'll just like kind of start working with the energy. And obviously the most universally compliant manner. And I mean that by just being sensitive to, to my rights in terms of, not just go, I'm not going to just go fuck with someone energy-wise, even if they deserve to be fucked with. But, so there's a definite... There's a code of conduct there that I abide by, but I have to work the energy hugely, especially at one point I was selling insurance. I was driving for about 6 weeks, 850 miles per week, and I'm closing deals and I
just got chills. Like my body just went.
Oh my gosh. And you know what's crazy is that, so I was vegetarian for many, many years. And then I progressed to eating good, healthy, organic meats and whatever. But I would eat kind of like a bird, like girl food, have some chocolate, have some cheese, kind of nibble here. And I was fine. And I could no longer do that. I had to have my square meals, and my coworkers not so much, but I'm like, we need to sit down and I need to eat a big lunch. Okay. They're like, let's get Starbucks. And I'm like, I needed food. I needed hearty food to ground myself and doing this particular job. And it's so funny how something is something like that. People don't necessarily think about food as grounding yourself, but
I think that's one of the biggest tips I was given, or at least I read, I don't remember where I got it from, was that if you wanted to feel grounded, you should eat root vegetables. And ever since then, I roast veggies all the time. And I sometimes forget, in the summer when you go through phases, with your food, I forget how good I feel when I am eating good roasted veggies. And I'm not vegan and I'm not vegetarian, but, vegetables are important to your diet, for one, but to connect with something that was in the earth is so important. And I think one of my, not roasted veggies, but one of my favorite meals is gumbo, which is a Cajun meal. And, I grew up with it. My grandmother made it. It's one of the few meals where I feel wholly there in the moment when I'm eating it. Oh, it's just so good. So if you have a favorite meal, you have to let yourself have it sometimes. If you're craving it, you need it for a reason.
I would love some gumbo right now.
It's
oh my God.
So good. We just had some over the weekend. My mom made it, and I was just sitting there at the kitchen table yes, please more. Give me pot. Give it to me now.
So you talked about bullet journaling a little bit, and I had heard something about that on NPR. I don't know that much about it, but if you'd like to share any more, or at least tell us how you were able to basically focus your energy to manifest Magickal Mavens, because we have an idea of, the passion and why you did what you did, but it is so hard to create stuff when you work full time? I mean, time goes so quickly, especially in this era. How did you focus your energy? How did you stay organized enough to actually do something you wanted to do?
That's a very good question. I still don't always know how I accomplished it. But bullet journaling is like this huge planner community. If you put it into YouTube, you will see some insane bullet journals. But at its core, it is basically a flexible planner/journal system. And I kind of dove into it because I needed more structure in my life. I was kind of going by the seat of my pants a lot, and I wasn't actually accomplishing anything. And so it started off as a self-development tool. Like, let me see if I can get myself kind of sort of organized. And it's now, because I carry it with me so much, there's this, like, it's me in a book. It's everything I want to accomplish. It's everything I have going on. It's journaling. It can be a lot of things. And there are some people that are very strict with their journals, and some people will turn them into beautiful works of art. That's where all of their creative expression goes. And I kind of find the middle ground. I get a little creative. I let myself doodle, but I'm not exactly an artist, so I keep it pretty minimal. But it's just really important, at least for me, to have something I go back to and review every day. And I feel like for me, that's where my power and manifestation comes from. There are people that can speak something into the world and it just happens. Like they just know intuitively. I don't know how they do it. They just say they're going to do this thing, and somehow in the future it happens, whether they intend, like, actively pursue it or not. It's the strange thing in the world to me. I am not one of those people. I have to focus a lot on intentional action in my manifestation. So I undermine myself a lot because of my anxiety and I won't say depression, but I have a lot of internalized self-thoughts about myself that I've carried for a very long time that I've had to overcome in order to feel like I can actually create something in my life. So my bullet journal was a way for me to build intentional action into my life and get to check something off as I did it and say, okay, I have made one step towards this. And then what comes from that, I feel like, is the manifestation. So all the work I poured into Mavens and myself that I poured into it has led me to amazing people like you, or, my high priestess friend that's running workshops and inviting me to review her content. Those are opportunities I would have never had if I had not done the one small/big thing of putting this thing together for myself. So for me, I manifest community. I don't really manifest other things for myself. It's a really weird thing. I don't really manifest money or anything like that. Like, I'm just not, it's not a goal of mine. It's not something that I feel like I need in my life. But people are something I've always craved. I did not grow up with a lot of friends. I wasn't emotionally close with a lot of people. So that's kind of how I feel like I've pulled in my chosen family. So it's really important to just figure out what it is you want or what you need in your life. And a bullet journal will help you get all of that if you can commit to it. It is a commitment, though. Commitment is hard.
Yeah, that's exactly why I asked you that, because it's hard. I'm a procrastinator. I got like a million ideas. And you know what? One of the things I noticed about myself as a character flaw that has held me back so much? Impatience.
You want it now, and you haven't done anything for it.
Exactly. Like, man, it's going to take forever. I got to build a website on Squarespace. Oh, my God, I barely use a computer. Yeah. So, but, how Dom, you started is that I felt like people needed a support group. It basically started like post-Me Too movement. And there was just so much talk and everything was going on. It's like, well, I'm a very outspoken person. Like, I'm like, I told you, I'm fire, for better or for worse. I am pure fire.
Fire and air.
Yeah. And so, like, kind of noticing, and one of the character flaws I also have, being pure fire, is that I don't necessarily listen as well as other people. I have a friend, she's such a good listener, and she just has, like, she's like this majestic goddess, and she's just so pure-hearted, and I need to align myself with people like her so I'm not such an asshole. And so I wanted Dom, you to be basically like a sisterhood. I'll be the jerk. I'll be the one talking smack. Like, we'll all partner up. It'll be a sharing of strength, is how I basically, you put it. And then, we use the archetype of a school because I am an advocate of self-work. And so whatever you can share with someone else, to help them, to basically to try to lift the vibe, especially as women, because, and you said it earlier, the common pain that women have, that we share, that we're still trying to reconcile, it has to be healed properly in order to move forward in the direction that we have to go, because we need a huge, huge shift as humans. We don't just need, like, women to have more success and have less awkward moments in the workplace. We need a huge shift to survive as a species and to quit killing each other, and the future is female, because we're the only ones who can actually handle that business.
We actively do emotional labor. It's a lot. Goodness, just the lady power thing. I think that's why I wanted Mavens to be all-inclusive, because I knew, so there's already argument over if witch is a gender-neutral term, and there are people that agree and there are people that don't agree. I believe it is, just because anybody has the ability to connect with source, ground, have a deeper understanding of the world around us and the people around us. And it's an empowering thing. And I feel like men that pursue spiritual practice, witchcraft, they pull that feminine energy and begin to understand it in a beautiful way. And they suddenly open their eyes to the experience that women have, because they're such a minority in a woman's space. They can suddenly see why we're so angry and why we want spaces just for us. And, it's not that this specific person has not done anything wrong. It's just a systemic, constant battle for us. And we have to reclaim ourselves somehow. And I really encourage men in my life, in the community. We have a handful of members that are in Mavens, but they're extremely quiet. I am trying to encourage them to speak up a little bit more, but creating is such a feminine thing, and that shouldn't be singular to women. Men are completely capable of creation, but it's just a shift in perspective that has to happen for us to coexist. You have to treat me like an actual person. And it's a weird space, and it's a weird community to look out of into the rest of the world, because it is so empowering to women and those that identify as women, to see that the rest of the world can't do that. It's really sad, and it makes me tired. I just, like, if they could just open their minds a little bit and just break and learn to break cycles. I think, because, I mean, that's what witches do every single day. We recognize and break toxic behavior so we can manifest. That's what we do. And I just want to teach other people how to do that. They're a little less angry and awful.
Yeah.
It can happen. There's so many of us now. We cannot be ignored.
We cannot be ignored. And
No,
I mean, I think that there's a lot more, coming. Obviously, Magickal Mavens and hopefully Dom U is on the rise, But we have to be able to find ways to reconcile our anger. And I know, because I can be extremely angry for whatever reason, life or situations. I'm emotional, passion, whatever it is. There has to be the idea that it's cool, it's acceptable, it is the right thing to do, to work on your emotions, to have that that internal looking and that that reconciliation that we have to have with ourselves, because there's so much anger in the world, and it's just coming out by just in huge amounts now with the Trump presidency and the divisiveness that brings. It's always been there.
It's just been brought to the forefront. I feel like he opened a door that I feel like people have been, I don't want to say hiding behind, but they definitely were more closed mouths about their thoughts and their opinions, because they knew it wasn't acceptable. And he blew open a door that just made people think that being awful was okay, and it's not. And I will hold you accountable for it.
Yeah.
You said his name and I wanted to, I gagged a little bit. I was like, oh God.
Yeah. It's tough. It's so tough, because and unfortunately politics is just, I don't know, I think it's representative of just the major failures of the human species. That we can be so tied to our thoughts and opinions, and we subscribe to other people. For people to tie up their sense of self into a politician is fucking batshit crazy to me. But that's the world we live in.
It's crazy. It's not just one person. It's what side of the fence are you standing on? Are you red or are you blue? And there's you're not allowed to sit in a gray space where you agree with, human rights and behaving appropriately and treating people respectfully, but also being fiscally conservative. You can't have both. You have to pick one or the other. That's freaking stupid. That's not how the world works. There has to be a level of understanding and openness and I'm going to go on a rant. I should stop.
We got to root out the corruption. It's like having, the world is like this really fucked up garden, and it's got,
really is. I just want to
weeds everywhere.
Burn it.
No. Well, I don't know. We got to get creative. We have to, and that's, spiritual work to me is
it's part of
root. Yeah, it's getting rid of the weeds, going in deep. All right, what's in alignment with what you want to grow in your life. We'll keep that, invest in that, cultivate that. And unfortunately, it hasn't been as commonplace. We idolize wealth, we idolize glamour, we idolize power, we idolize celebrity, but we don't idolize, grace and joy and ease.
We've completely stepped away from all of that. I think I saw someone that said, oh God, where was it? Something about calling someone a snowflake was indicative of a lack of understanding of empathy, something like that, whereas basically like by accusing someone of being a snowflake, you have shut the door on your ability to understand another person's experience. And it was so profound to me. It was like, holy, like, it's so true. Like, we've just completely lost sight of really connecting with another person. And as long as it looks good and looks cool, it's okay. And that's crazy to me. Ugh.
Yeah.
Love
Well, I was
with social media.
Yeah. This kind of came up for me in meditation the other day, and it's kind of like taking that exact same thing that you were talking about, but let's say it's the roles are reversed, and it's judging someone who comes across as a bigot. And, in doing that judgment, I don't know if there's always going to be ego in judgment. There probably is, but recognizing the flaws of the human species, when you judge someone, when you kind of go there with them, you're immediately going to make them defensive. They don't want to be wrong, and they don't know where to go. So somehow, us witches have to figure out how to lift them up. Because if we can't figure out how to lift them up, or at least hold space for them where they're at, then they can keep distorting the light and go lower and lower. And, we've seen it with hate crimes and these other eruptions that have been more severe than just, the bleeding of the wound, that has come about in recent years. But some way we gotta hold space and find a way to, kind of break apart those barriers and allow them to kind of come up. Because I think that's a lot of the thing that you see in people who are the most angry, is that their vibration is lower, and it can go up or it can go down.
Low, and then they're operating from a place of fear. Just feel like it's a fear of change, and it's a fear of the unknown, and some fear is well placed. It stems from an experience that someone has had. But in general, acting out at people that are like just generally being hateful, it's not rooted in any one experience. It's just a general fear. And so I've, coming from a small mountain town that does not experience a lot of things, it's a lot of work, and you have to almost use your relationship with people that are kind of shut off from that to your advantage. My parents were not, really interested in the occult or anything like that, and they are a bit more on the red side. But now that I've kind of proven to them that, at least in some part, that my experience or my path or my opinion is truly rooted in a general love and care for the world, it's started to soften them a little bit. And so you have to connect with them in a way that makes sense almost, and then kind of feed it from there. Like, I started off talking about weird ghost stuff with my parents, and like my mom went ghost hunting, and I kind of explained to my mom that I was taking it a step further. And it's baby steps, and you almost have to handhold them into seeing the other side of things and not being so in their little, dark corner of, past my arm, there's nothing else. It's just emptiness. And you have to take them by the hand and lead them through that tunnel. That's a lot of work. And there are sometimes where you just have to stop and go, this is not worth the work for you. Like, I have to put my time and energy elsewhere until you are ready to make that step. So it's a lot of work. We have a lot of work to do.
We can only do so much, but I think we've identified the bullseye. the bullseye. Fear is the only enemy. Not that we want to think about it as as an enemy, because that's taking us into the negative, but you got the target of where to flip the switch.
Yeah. What is the root of their fear, and how do you address it so they can overcome it? Because that's the root of anxiety. That's the root of most of our day-to-day problems is fear and lack of control, the unknown. And so it's weird. I feel like witches are just in a space where we're combating that every single day internally. So we're prepared to take someone else and lead them through that as well. If you don't have that, then you're not going to take the chance that it might not go the way you want it to.
Well, thank you so much. I love what you do, and just all the light that you've shared with us today. And Magickal Mavens, I want to have some links up, and it's Magickal with a CK, the 6-letter Magick. Side note. Tell us again, if you haven't said so already, what people can find on magicalmavens.com, and what's coming up for you guys.
Yeah, so on the website, it's kind of become a little hub of information and resources. We have a Making a Maven series, which dives into a lot of kind of witchcraft 101 information, religious practice, kind of the weird questions that you start to ask yourself, myself, and I guess whoever wants to participate kind of dives into those topics for you, and we provide recommended reading lists and all kinds of information. And then we also do monthly tarot and astrological forecasts, and we'll have interviews, and we are working on putting together a masterclass style series through the group and somehow through the .com. And we want it to be open to guest content, and I really want it to reflect the community. So I want it to shift from being less about my personal practice and experience and more about the experience of others, because it's so diverse that my experience is not always going to resonate with someone. And we're putting together an online shop, so that's fun.
Awesome. Yes.
And I think we'll have a mountain retreat scheduled sometime for the summer, so definitely keep an eye out for that. So it'll be fun.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I would definitely like to be a part of that. No, I love it. I love it.
But thank you so much for letting me out and talk to you. I really appreciate it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's been my pleasure. Honored to have you on. Kat Davies, Magickal Mavens. Thank you so much.
Thank you.